Hi everyone, my name's Caspar and I'm a chef, but I'm also the CEO at Fresh Fitness Food. And my passion is about bringing you amazing, convenient recipes, either through our direct service where you'll order through the app you're on right now, or through our website, or for those of you who want to cook at home, we also want to help you get really convenient, delicious, and healthy ways to stay in shape and go after the goals that you might be after. So today I'm going to bring together a recipe which is simple, you'll be able to cook along, only uses a couple of ingredients, all of which are very easy to find these days. We're going to do a protein pancake with a seasonal fruit compote, and today we're going to use plums. So based on the season you might be in, this recipe will work with a lot of fruit and not take much changes to be able to use almost anything year round. The plums, in my opinion, work particularly well because we can really cook them down for quite a while, get a lot of the sugars and pectins out of those, so we get a really nice thickness. Let's get cooking. My opinion of fruit is it's just amazing, right? There's God's gift on earth. It's got to be fruit, in my opinion. Why am I using a vegan protein powder? Vegan protein powder typically cooks a lot better. If you make this for somebody, don't tell them how healthy it is until they've tried it. Okay, first thing to start off with is that plum compote. So I'm going to take these plums, and once I've found my pot, just a little pot, I want something with high sides. I wouldn't advise doing this in a fry pan unless I just wouldn't advise doing this in a fry pan. So I'm just going to take my chopping board. I've got my knife here. When it comes to knives, this is the knife I recommend for all of my friends to buy. This is a Victorinox. They call it a Victorinox pastry knife. It's kind of like a bread knife, but it's got a flat top and then some angle on the bottom. You'll see in, I've worked in 2 and 3 Michelin star kitchens, and guys in those kitchens are filleting fish with these, they're chopping herbs, it's probably the most practical knife money can buy. You can buy it on Amazon, it's incredibly cheap, or you can buy it in your local Nisbet store in London. So that's just a kind of a side note as I go. So I'm just literally going round, taking these here. I think in anything you do, and you'll see me as I go through some of these recipes, try to work in a methodical fashion. So first of all, you'll see I'm taking these down, and it can be the little things that will speed you up. I'm keeping the pips on the left side, the ones I've cored on the right side, and I'm also going to be working from left to right. But it's one thing at a time. It's not take the pip out of each one, cut it up. It's core it and go through each at a time. So I'm going to start with 5 plums. So the reason I'm going to do 5 plums is because I want to make some of this for now and some of this for later on. So that way, this is the kind of plum sort of compote that you might want to put in the fridge. You can stick it on a sandwich if you want. And see, again, I'm going from left to right. The thing I'm not doing, that I should be doing, is I like to just get a little bowl and pop that up on the bench, and that's going to be my bin to kind of work from, and then later I can obviously take those things and take it out if I need. So we're in the Fresh Fitness Food office today. This is upstairs here, where we've got our test kitchen, where we kind of work on some recipe ideas that we might have for some of our core service. So I'm almost got these out now. They're all out, so now I move to the next phase. There's a little bit of, no, that's okay. And I'm just taking these into thirds, basically, so you might be able to see on some of the close-ups there, but I want like kind of chunky compote. And again, this fruit's in season, so it's delicious. The fruit's fairly firm, but it's still nice and ripe. And sort of working through them there, and then just straight into my pot. So I'm going to basically be working in real time with you on a lot of the recipes. This one, for instance, I'm going to get this cooking now, and while that's cooking, I'm going to prep my protein pancake mix, and then both things, if I get my timing right, should come together at the end. So on this recipe here, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Now you'll add salt to most sweet things with me, just to get a lot of the flavors that come out. The second thing I'm going to add that I don't normally add to sweet things, but I will always usually add to a fruit compote, is some pepper. Pepper can be really aromatic, and what I'm looking for is just some of that really coarse ground pepper in there. There we go. Okay, cool. Gonna just get that heat on right away now. So I'm looking for a low heat to start with. And the next thing I'm going to be adding into there is some honey. So that will help cook down and start to bring out some of the sugars. And then the final thing from there is I'm going to be adding some, so I've gone with 5 plums, and I'm going with about 2 teaspoons of honey to start with, and then we'll check it for sort of sweetness and flavor as we get going. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of water to that to just start getting it cooked down. So for 5 plums, I'm going to be working with roughly 50 mils of water to start with, and then I'll keep another 50 mils on the side if it needs it. All I want is for those flavors to start coming out and for things to start to get really soft before any of that water evaporates or dries out. So I'll use more water if I need, but ideally I want the least amount as possible to get things going within that. Okay, so I'm going to be making enough pancakes for 2 people, because maybe you've woken up early and you're making some nice protein pancakes for your partner. Maybe you're meal prepping, so you want some for the next day. We have these on the menu at Fresh Fitness Food. Thank you very much. Hello, Tom. So 50 mils of water. I'm a professional, so I know exactly what 50 mils looks like. So yeah, like I said, we use the same recipe on the menu at Fresh Fitness Food. And it microwaves great the next day. You get a lot of the kind of softness will come out of it. I don't advise putting it in the oven the next day. It's more of a microwave thing. You'll get a bit more fluffiness that will come through it. So the banana really starts to form the fiber within the dish that will hold it together, that typically you'll be using a lot more kind of sugar, which is an excellent binding agent, or more flour. In this case, it's fairly low on that. So next thing I'm going to be adding is 2 eggs. So this is a high protein recipe. Each egg's got about 6 grams of protein, making it a decent source of protein. The next thing I'm going to be adding is my protein powder and my flour. So I've got this massive bag of, really excessive bag of protein powder. And I've got my scales here. So just working with me. I'm going to zero out my scales. So they turn on. And then I've got my vanilla protein powder. I'm using Innermost, who are a friend of the brand. And I'm going to go with 1 scoop. So I'm using a vanilla vegan protein powder. I'm going to go with 1 scoop. So you all know what 1 scoop is. It's typically about a 30-gram scoop, giving me about 25 grams of protein. That plus the eggs is starting to build up a lovely little protein profile. Why am I using a vegan protein powder? Vegan protein powder typically cooks a lot better. So it's got a little more fiber, it's got a little more texture to it. Protein powders are usually made from whey, and when they're vegan, they're typically made from things like peas, rice, and soy and other extracts like that, which are often things you'll find in baking anyway. So they do then typically cook quite well. Then I've got my flour, and I'm going for the same amount of flour to start off with. We're going to let that out if we need to down the line. So I've got my 30 grams of flour, my 30 grams of the protein powder in there right now, and we're going to see how we get on with that. So that then just simply goes on my blender. Blender on. Straight through there. You'll see it starts to combine. I don't want it to get too thin. Might do some pulses. If I need to let it out, I've got some oat milk here. I like oat milk because I like the kind of flavor it starts to give it. So I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of that to it. You have to be really careful with protein powder, including vegan protein powder, to just not overwork it too much. So it's kind of a fine balance between getting it. Cool. Cool. Boom. So our compote is kind of boiling away now. A lot of those waters have started to come out. I'm just starting to mix it down. My opinion of fruit is it's just amazing, right? Like a plum is, give it a quick wash and it's ready for you to bite into. So I don't know, if there's God's gift on earth, it's got to be fruit in my opinion, you know? Even little blueberries don't even have a little stone. You can just bang them straight in. With a plum like that, I don't want to do too much to it. I want to bring out a couple of things that will bring out the flavor of the plum, like the honey and like the salt, but I don't really want to do too much to it. If you find fruit boring, which I think is weird, but if you do, you can add things like cinnamon into there, star anise as well, bring out some really interesting aromatic flavors as well. But I think a little black pepper, a nice dollop of honey is really all you need to get that fruit to the level that you should be looking for. So it's, as you can see, like the little bit of water that I've added has really started to kind of motivate the water within the plums to come out. So giving that a nice little stir now. I'm basically just going to leave that alone and let it cook. So depending on the hardness of the plums will also be how long that might take. I think that's probably been cooking for about 10 minutes now. Maybe even less, and I'm probably going to want a total of about 20-25 minutes, depending on the hardness of the plums. My pancake mix, on the other hand, is looking good. So it's quite thick right now, and that's because the vegan protein powder can really do that to it. It can really kind of bind it quite quickly. So I'm just going to kind of cowboy this a little bit because I don't want to make another thing messy. And I don't want to work the protein anymore with the blender. So I'm going to be a little bit of a cowboy and do it this way. And just whip that straight into it. Now we're kind of ready with that. With a protein pancake, non-stick pan is more important than ever. Most people have them at home. You want to start that off on a fairly low heat, where basically you can start to see now the edges of the fruit are kind of sort of fraying and peeling away, and it's really starting to cook down. And I wish you could smell this. It smells like really nice, like delicious honey and plums, obviously. So I'm going to clap, and it's going to skip to when this is done in about 20 minutes from now. So about 15 minutes has just gone by. So it wasn't the full 20 we needed, but these plums are going to take about another 5 minutes to finish off, and in that time we'll be cooking. So what you can see now is like the pectins, Google pectins. They're kind of complicated to explain, but they're amazing little buggers, and they thicken things. So you'll see that those pectins have started to come out, and you get that really jammy deliciousness and also that kind of glossy coating over the fruit. I'm also not going to like stir that too hardcore with my spatula here, because I don't want to break up the fruit too much. Kind of like a sushi master doesn't stir his rice other than with a gentle wooden paddle, you know? My little plums are kind of delicate right now. They're very soft, and so I want to really just have them take some time and not get smashed up, and that way they'll still be slightly formed when I pour them all over our amazing pancakes. All right, so stage 2, pancake pan is on. I'm going to start on a medium heat because I don't want them to burn before they've started to cook through the middle. Also, just very, very quickly, this is only going to take a second. I'm just going to take my quark, which is what I'm going to be using for the topping on this, and I'm going to add this into a little bowl. Why am I using quark? Because it's fat-free, it's delicious. You could use a Greek yogurt, something like a fage. You could, just about use anything you want, but I'm going to use a quark in this instance because I really like the thickness that comes with it. Now, if you want a higher protein recipe, at this stage, I would add some whey protein into my quark, and I would get a kind of moussey vanilla-ness into there. If you want more sweetness, you could add that at this stage here, but all I'm going to actually do is basically whip it up to try and make it more creamy. I personally like the acidity. It's really high protein, even more than a standard yogurt. But again, if you added some vanilla protein to that right there and kind of whipped it through, you would get some nice, really kind of like moussey flavor, which I think is just a little bit of a point of difference from your kind of, you know, like a yogurt or a cream or anything like that. So, got my mix here. I'm going to start with one portion. So, they always say the first pancake's a bit shit, but let's see if we can, you know, disprove that theory. So in goes my mix. So with my mix, I'm looking for about 4 pancakes in total. Remember, these pancakes are packed with maybe kind of like 2 pancakes and a little small one just to make it look sexy. So I'm going to start with just the one portion. I've got the other portion down in here, should I want it for any kind of friends. So I've turned my plum down. Now it's at a really delicate stage, so I'm just going to give it a nice little turn. And already I'm breaking up some of those little poor guys, but that's okay too. I'm actually going to turn my plums off at this stage and just let them kind of cool down and relax a little bit. And my pancakes are cooking and my non-stick pan is working. So everything is just great. So this kind of recipe, like I said, maybe it's something, I'll give you an example. Sunday morning, you get out of bed a little early, you make something for your housemate, for your mum, for your girlfriend, for your boyfriend, and you'll serve that. But at the same time, you might make a little extra mix, or you might cook off a bunch more pancakes and have them on Monday morning in some Tupperware that you heat up in the office and be the envy of everybody there. What I would advise in that situation is to keep the plums on the side a little bit, the pancakes down one end, microwave it. Those pancakes will get nice and fluffy again on Monday morning, and then you can kind of spoon things together and eat it together at that stage. So this will work for meal prepping, something like this. Right, so I'm just going to kind of gently look under, and it's starting to puff up. I haven't even added any bicarb soda to these. You could do that again if you wanted a little more fluff. I'm going to get my plate ready. I'm going to go for this beautiful plate. So I've got my plums there, I've got my quark there. And let's do it. Should we flip it? Oh, look at that. God, excellent. Oh yeah, wow. Woo! Okay. All right, we're on here. These are looking really good. And I hope that you get to eat them at home. And I hope you get to share them, because this is really one of those recipes you really want to be sharing with somebody. And you can even tell them after you've made it for them that this is seriously healthy. I haven't added any sugars. I've got a lot of sweetness from the protein powder already in there, and I've got a lot of sweetness from the banana. So there's really no need to add anything else. You might add a little bit of honey if you like something really sweet, but I would not add much. Now here's the tricky bit. I've turned that heat off, okay? I do not want to cook these any longer, right? They are like perfect little guys right now. So they're just going straight onto my plate like that. I do not want these to take any longer. I want them to keep cooking when they come onto the plate. And now I get some of these juicy in-season plums. And I'm just going to kind of put those guys on there. And you can see some of them have kind of broken down a lot. And that's okay. We did our best to protect the little guys. I'm just going to really load up on them and be quite generous with these little gorgeous ting-tings. Just a little bit over here for some spot of color. And now I've got my quark. Finally that thing is shut up. You know, might make some little colored through there. Maybe over here. And maybe one here. So there we go. If you're cooking along right now. And then final thing I'm going to be adding to these is I've got some toasted almond flakes and some cacao seeds. And this is just a really easy little mix. You probably pick up both ingredients in lots of different stores these days. And I just like them for a little added texture and a little added crunch. And I like the kind of earthiness that the cacao nibs work quite well with those earthy plums. And I'm just going to sprinkle. When sprinkling, it's always good to pull off the back of the spoon, or the front of the spoon, or whatever you might call it. And I'm just going to add a couple there to give me some texture through there. Maybe a couple more of those little almond flakes over the top of there. A couple more little almond flakes here. Okay, and we are done. So, guys, Fresh Fitness Food customers, Fresh Fitness Food app users, I hope you've enjoyed cooking along with me. This is something that you can meal prep, something you might want to make for someone special, and something that is seriously high protein, seriously healthy, and doing nothing but playing off the really in-season flavors that come from those plums. All right, should we try it? Yeah. Yeah. If you make this for somebody, don't tell them how healthy it is until they've tried it. And then you can surprise them by the fact that there are no refined sugars in it, all natural ingredients, and it's just really goddamn tasty. You get nice kind of texture through the pancakes because we were able to cook them at a decent heat. And then you've got those plums, and you've got the crunch from the cacao nibs, which I'd also really recommend getting on there. Plums and cacao just work really well, particularly something about the black pepper I've used in the plums. Like the plums are so good. All I did was add 2 teaspoons of honey and a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper and a little bit of water, and then I just let them do their thing, you know? This dish is something that we serve at Fresh Fitness Food, but something that you could really easily make at home. That was really good. Enjoy.